Hello, and thanks for joining us for Prepped and Polished Education and Inspiration. I'm your host, Alexis Avila, educator, online entrepreneur, founder of tutoring test prep firm Prepped and Polished, broadcasting today from South Natick, Massachusetts. Prepped and Polished Education Inspiration is your destination for groundbreaking insight from today's most influential educators, leaders, and minds on the planet. And today our show is brought to you by Plan for College Videos. Nationally known college planning expert Paul Hemphill has a wonderful series of planning videos, about 100 of them. And his videos ask all the questions with answers that parents don't know to ask, and parents don't know what they don't know. Well, the frustration ends with his videos. To learn more, www.planning-for-college.com/videos. And thank you to everyone for tuning in today. Joining our show today is Tom Kovic, who is founder and director of Victory Collegiate Consulting, which is an educational service company that advises parents and athletes in proactive preparation for college athletics recruiting process. And Tom spent 19 years as a head coach in gymnastics at University of Pennsylvania and led U Penn to 8 Ivy League championships. Tom is author of Reaching for Excellence, an educational guide for college athletic recruiting. And since 2006, Tom has delivered over 300 college recruiting presentation seminars to nearly 2,000 participants. And Tom's going to share with us today how to better navigate the college athletic recruiting process. To our listeners, you can submit a question at any time to radio@preppedandpolished.com. We always appreciate hearing from you. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Alexis, and thanks to you and Prepped and Polished for hosting today's talk. It's been a very busy summer. Very productive summer, and I can't believe that it's almost over, but it's great to be with you today.
Definitely. So I first found out about you, Tom, and your services actually on YouTube a few years back. You're talking about Victory College recruiting and had your daughter with you, and I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, Hannah's our only child. And she's an avid lacrosse player, and it was funny. I just had one of those daughter-dad moments where she came into my office. I was getting some work done, and I think she was probably 5 or 6 years old. And she looked at me and she asked, "Dad, what do you do?" And I thought to myself, well, you know what? Why don't we talk about this, and we can tape this. I think we taped with my computer. But she was brilliant. She was flawless in her questions, and we actually used the landline phone as a fake microphone. And I thought to myself, this could be just a terrific video to just give some basic insight on who Tom Kovic is. And I thought it was cleverly done with the help of my daughter. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start back a bit. We have a lot of teens who are listening to get ready for college. So I always like to ask, like, where did you grow up as a child, and what were you like growing up as a teen?
Yeah, I grew up in Massapequa, New York. It's on Long Island, South Shore, and I'm a baby boomer, so a child of the '60s. And it was a great childhood. It's different than today. One where sport was just a really important part of childhood. So, I was a typical boy growing up where, love of baseball, football, basketball, in a neighborhood where there were a lot of kids, and play was just not so much strongly encouraged, but it just happened naturally. And, I grew up as a typical boy, with a love of as I mentioned, baseball and football, especially at an early age. actually, I was part of an all-star baseball team that traveled the country back in the mid '60s. I had high hopes of being a major league player, like I think every other kid on the block did. But as time moved forward and, realizing that I wasn't going to be that 6'1", 200-pound athlete, I started to embrace different sports, track and field, pole vaulting especially. My brother was a pole vaulter in high school. And gymnastics became an important sport to me in middle school and through high school and into college. And actually, I was a two-sport athlete my freshman year at Temple University in both track and field and gymnastics. So sport as a youngster through my teenage years played a very important role as part of my nurturing.
Oh, definitely. And growing up, who were some of your major influences?
Yeah, a lot of people probably out there won't recognize them, but when I was growing up, I'd have to say that there were two athletes that really stood out. Mickey Mantle, who was a great New York Yankee baseball player, and Bob Richards, who was a three-time Olympic pole vaulter back in the late 40s and early 50s. And he was one of the first athletes on the Wheaties box. So I need Wheaties every day, and there was Bob Richards right there. But these two athletes were superb athletes and heroes in my mind that did great things.
Wow, that's awesome. So you already kind of started sharing a little bit about your background, but maybe let's maybe focus on a couple of pivotal moments that brought you to here today, now as just this expert for college recruiting and admissions.
Yeah, I'd have to say there's two experiences in my life that stood out that have driven me to this point. One when I was growing up and in high school, and the college recruiting process back then was much different than it is today. And so when I was a high school athlete, I was a pretty good athlete. I was a state champion in New York in gymnastics, and I was actually the runner-up, placed second at the New York State Championships in pole vaulting in my senior year in high school. And to be honest with you, I didn't start the college recruiting process until after my senior year was complete. And you talk about a scratch your head moment. I basically got lucky and fortunate that there were two coaches out there, both from Temple University, the track and field coach and the gymnastics coach, who needed a guy like me. And by August, before the start of my freshman year in high school, I was awarded a full scholarship, half scholarship for track and field, half scholarship for gymnastics. And as I mentioned before, I consider myself fortunate. Mm-hmm. The other example would be when I was a college coach at the University of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. I would typically take the month of August and travel the country to visit with my top prospects, to not only watch them train, but also to get in their home and talk to their families, have dinner with them, pet their dogs, whatever it took in order for them to realize that I had sincere interest in their daughter as a prospect. Okay. The one thing that I realized was that I was at a very clear edge in the recruiting process. So I thought to myself, this is going back to 2006, that wouldn't it be a good idea to be able to possibly provide a service to help level the playing field in the recruiting process, considering this is a major life decision that our children are going to be making. And at that point, I decided to devote myself to growing Victory and helping educate families, their children, and helping them put their plans together for the college search.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And just going back to your U Penn coaching days, I noticed that you guys won 4 straight Ivy League titles. Is that still a record?
That was a sensational group of young women that I had the opportunity to train. They were all great, during my years at Penn between 1987 and 2006. But that's a run. Those 4 years is a run that hasn't been matched yet.
Wow, that's awesome. So, Tom, tell us about, so now we're at Victory Collegiate Consulting. Tell us about what services you provide.
Yeah, basically, there's really 2 types of services that I provide. One is a full service option where families have unlimited access to me for an entire year. And the other option are the hourly block options. They can retain my service for 5 hours or 10 hours. And what we do is we basically utilize that time to help position their sons, their daughters, the families best in moving forward in the college search. So, whether it's a sophomore in high school or a junior in high school, it all depends on the family's needs and comfort level, and that's important. Every family has a different need, and between the 2 types of service options, I feel comfortable that I'll be able to meet the needs of any family that comes to me.
And I think that's the operative word, that every family has a different need, because if you look at your mission statement on your website, you really go into how you take a really smart approach to planning the college search for athletes. And I'm assuming that's the model that you need to really be effective.
Yeah, my thought is this. My goal as an advisor is to help families realize that they control their playing field. That ultimately, this is a decision that their children are going to be making a life-changing decision. And with that comes great responsibility. And part of that responsibility and a big part of what I do, especially with the boys and girls that I work with, is help them from an educational standpoint to understand not only the NCAA procedures and the rules, but also their role in the process and how to maximize this effort. So as far as growing the personal relationships with the families that I've got the privilege to work with, I think that's a pretty important component, because these folks know that in a pinch, whenever they need me, they can reach me.
Tom, is the recruiting process totally different for Division III athletes versus Division II, I?
That's a great question. And I would say that what differs between Division III and, if I can lump in the 1AA programs, especially the Ivies and the Patriot League programs, where, you're talking about institutions that do not offer athletic scholarships. So really the main thrust in the effort is going to be, the question asked is, what institution is going to provide me with the best educational experience to help me further my career, maximize my effort moving forward. So therefore, the recruiting process there is a little bit different, because, and this goes back to my years as a college coach at Penn. Whether it's Division III or 1AA, these college coaches are recruiting prospects first and foremost from an academic standpoint. They have to make sure that these boys and girls bring the credentials to the table to be able to pass through the admissions process. And as long as coaches know they've got a good chance to help these prospects get through that first hurdle, then the next step is obviously going to be, from an athletic standpoint, where is the potential strength that this prospect brings to the table as far as helping my program move to the next level. So yes, there is a difference in strategy as far as recruiting is concerned with Division III, 1AA compared to Division I or compared to Division II. But I think the important thing, Alexis, is for each prospect that's out there, there is a match. that will,
Okay.
an ideal match that will work, whether it's Division 1, 2, 3, 1AA. And the trick is to be able to develop a self-awareness, understand what strengths you bring to the table, both academic, athletic, and social and cultural, okay, and being able to use these strengths to connect with that ideal college.
Wow. I could see where you could be extremely helpful, because it's almost like an art form, balancing everything and finding that great fit.
Yeah, obviously there's a step-by-step. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and
I like
taking an organized and well-managed approach is really going to give our prospects, our boys and girls and families, the best chance at success. And Alexis, I'm not a smart guy. I never will be, but I'm a gut guy, and I'm good at organizing. I'm good at managing, and being able to put plans together and help families is critical. That aside, it's important to understand the families that I work with and grow strong connections with them to get to that end.
That's awesome. Tom, any examples of a student who may have been like a shoo-in to play sports at a college if he just simply followed some key application tips, but failed to do a few things on his application, or during the recruiting process he just didn't do a few things and completely blew his chances to play sports? I know that sounds a little extreme, but
no, that's a good question, and I will tell you this: it's rare when it happens,
mm-hmm.
but it's typically what will happen is, I guess the operative is going to be trouble. Somehow the prospect runs into some type of trouble.
Okay.
And typically it's academic trouble. Maybe it's students that receive a verbal offer from a college coach in the beginning of the junior year and take for granted that they're basically home free, and their studies and their academic success might struggle, or basically they are their priorities are offset. And I think what's important is for students to realize, one, you've got to stay devoted to your priorities. It doesn't end, when you get the handshake from a college coach that they're going to bring you on board to the team. That the actual finishing tape in the college recruiting process is not when you've received this offer, but the day you begin your college experience on that college campus. So see it all the way through to the end. And these kids know how to do that because they do it every day on the field or in the gym. Okay. They're devoted athletes, and they realize that, the game is not complete until the final second.
Oh, that's awesome. Now let's flip the coin. Can you maybe share with us like a success story, maybe a case in which you were able to take maybe a young student who had little chance of playing sports in college, but after meeting with you, he was able to make some key adjustments, changes, and earn himself a spot on the team?
Yeah, I think there's one kid that stands out that meets that criteria. This is an interesting story. A girl that when I first started actually with Victory back in 2006, 2007, one of my first clients actually, from Seattle, Washington, lacrosse player. And think about it for a second. Who plays, back then, who plays lacrosse on the West Coast? It's an East Coast sport, Mid-Atlantic, New England, but she was passionate about lacrosse and a brilliant student, okay,
mm-hmm.
and interested only in, top flight schools from an academic standpoint, but
mm-hmm.
low on the radar as far as the athletic recruiting process was concerned. And, I just basically rolled my sleeves up and I thought to myself, let's take bold strokes here. Let's take a bold approach to, getting on the radar screen, take a proactive approach. So I encourage the family to not wait for the college coaches, whether it's Ivy League or Patriot League, where she wound up. Okay. Not wait for the college coaches to get in touch with her, but for her to reach directly to the college coaches and to take this bold approach. And the long and the short of it is, interesting. You know, she was your atypical lacrosse player, an attackman, 6'2", tall girl. Okay. And she wound up attending Lafayette College.
Oh, that's a powerhouse, right?
Well, a brilliant, academic choice first. And, they were in a growth spurt as far as their lacrosse program is concerned. But anyway, as a freshman, in the sense of walk-on to the program, she grew not only to be a starter in that program, but team captain. And now she's attending medical school in Philadelphia. And that's one of my strongest success stories.
Wow, that's amazing. Testament to your tutelage. And so, Tom, you have an educational guide for college athletic recruiting. It's called Reaching for Excellence. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and how we can purchase it?
Yeah, that's a terrific story. Now I'm going back to 2006 when I started Victory. And you got to remember, Alexis, I've got no business background whatsoever. I started Victory from scratch on a wing and a prayer. And I'm just so glad that I stuck with it. But here I was in 2006, struggling to launch this service. And one day the light kind of went on, and I thought to myself, you've got this experience, this 19 years of college coaching. Why not write about it? And what I did was I basically, roughly broke down 12 important chapters of what I thought are necessary as far as college recruiting is concerned, whether it's developing an educational base or understanding NCAA procedures, the importance of the eligibility center, et cetera, and so on. And Reaching for Excellence evolved. And it's a very, very simple read, but I think it's packed with terrific information to help at least families grow that beginning of the information base that is necessary in order to advance with success in the college search. But it's a good book. I like it. I've added to it over the years. It's very easy to find. You can go to my website at www.victoryrecruiting.com, click to the services page, and it's right there at the bottom of the page, and easy to request, and I'll ship it right out.
Oh, that's awesome. And also, I noticed that you have a college recruitment community, and it's on your website, collegerecruitingtv.com. What kind of propelled you to launch that, and how has that been going?
Yeah, collegerecruiting.tv is actually, it's the website is collegerecruiting.tv, not .com.
Nice.
But no, that's fine. Yeah, collegerecruiting.tv is simply my library. So it's my online library that contains all of the articles that I've written over the past 8 years. I've got podcasts up there, resources up there. I consider it sort of an information base where families can have yearly membership to that website if they choose. It's a simple website, easy to navigate, and I think it's got good information.
That's awesome. Great service. Tom, the bridge from teenage years, we got a lot of teenage listeners, to young adulthood, the bridge is an exciting time, but it can be a confusing time in one's life, right? Especially right before college. So to any teen who might be listening to you, what piece of advice would you have for him?
Yeah, I would say that there's a big difference in navigating the college search for athletes now and in 2014 compared to 20 or 30 years ago. And it's a competitive environment, and there's no doubt about that. That aside, we live in a country where competition is a good thing and it's healthy. And being able to approach competition and realize that the better prepared I am for competition, the better chance I have at success. And taking a good positive approach to that, I think, is half the battle. Secondly, realizing and these young men and women, realizing that they do indeed control their playing field, that ultimately they have an important decision that is not only going to provide them with a great 4-year college experience and as part of a college athletic program, but more importantly, it's going to give them the personal and professional direction they need for the rest of their lives. And really realizing that they have moms and dads, coaches, advisors that support them, they love them, they care about them, and who want them desperately to be able to take the personal responsibility in order to make this life-changing decision. I think that's the message that I would like to send to teenagers.
That's awesome. So Tom, how can we find you and work with you? Maybe listen to you speak. Please plug yourself. Like I said, Alexis, Victory is a mom and pop service. I like it that way. My aim is to grow personal relationships with the families that I work with. My aim is to basically help them organize, manage, and crack the whip and advance them step by step through this process. It's very easy to get in touch with me. Visit my website at www.victoryrecruiting.com. That'll give you a snapshot about Tom Kovic and Victory Collegiate Consulting. And if you have any questions, you can reach me by email at kovic@victoryrecruiting.com. Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate you coming on today and sharing your knowledge about the college recruiting process and how your mom and pop shop, you call it, but it's an excellent service. Victory Collegiate Consulting betters its students' chances of getting into their top schools.
Thanks, Alexis, and thanks to you and Prepped and Polish. And I look forward to speaking with you soon.
My pleasure. And to the audience, to learn more about the amazing work Tom does for families and students, you check out his website. It's victoryrecruiting.com, and join Tom's college recruiting community. And that's www.collegerecruiting.tv to get cutting-edge news, articles, podcasts, videos. Thank you for joining us on Prepped and Polished Education and Inspiration.